So to attach the cuff and the placket to the sleeve, you need to have these 4 pattern pieces. So you have the cuff pattern piece, you have the placket, the larger side of the placket pattern piece, and you have also the bound pattern piece. And this pattern piece over here represents the lower part of the sleeve pattern itself, which has the slit where the placket and the binding will go. And also you have 2 pleats that are on the sleeve hem line. So I'll show you how, like the steps, so that you can attach first the placket and the binding to the slit, and then after that you will pleat the pleats and then attach the cuff piece to the sleeve after you attach the under seams to each other. So everything is going to be done while the lower part of the sleeve is flat. And once you secure the pleats and attach the placket and the binding, you will sew the underseam and then attach the cuff piece. Okay, so I'll start first by notching my notches. Alright, I already did that part. Okay, so I have my notches, and I also need to dot where the corners are on the slit. So I'll dot over here on my fabric, over here and over here, so that I have these marks on my pattern piece. And I'm going to unpin my sleeve, and as you can see, while the pattern paper is here, the sleeve will have like one side that is wide and the other side that is narrow. The binding go to the narrow side, okay, and the part that looks like the placket part goes to the wider side, okay. So keep that in mind. So we bind the narrower side of the slit, and we attach the placket to the wider side of the slit. So I'm gonna take my pattern piece away, and then I will use my binding piece, and I will also need to draw the line from the center of the slit all the way to the tip of that triangle. So I'm gonna come here, and I have my pattern piece on my fabric again. Okay, and I will mark where the center of the slit will be at the hem, and I'm going to use a ruler to draw this line. Okay, so now I can remove my pattern piece, and I will connect the tip of that triangle to the hemline of the sleeve. Okay, and after doing this, I will cut this line from the hemline all the way to the tip of this triangle, and I am going to align my binding piece to the wrong side of the fabric. Alright, so I'm gonna go to the wrong side of the fabric, and I'm going to align my binding piece with the slit line, and I want to also transfer the dot that I did before to my binding piece. So I'm gonna indicate where I need to stop stitching. Okay, I will pin my binding piece to the fabric, so right side of the binding piece to the wrong side of the sleeve, aligning the edges of both pieces together, or aligning the edge of the binding to the edge of the narrow side of the sleeve. And I will align my raw edge with the 1/4 inch seam guide, so I'm gonna stitch them to each other. So I'm gonna stitch and then back stitch number 2 stitch, okay? And I'll be stitching until I can come to my dot, aligning both edges together at a 1/4 inch. So I'll put my pin in there so that I know where to stop stitching. And then once I get to my dot, I will back stitch. Okay, so this is step 1. Alright, and to finish stitching this side, alright, I will trim my thread first. And right now I am looking from the inside of my garment, so the wrong side of the garment. And I am going to come to the tip of the triangle, and I will cut up to the point where I stopped stitching, right to my last stitch. So now I created this slit over here, and then I can now take my binding, press it towards the slit, and then I will take it to the outside. Okay, so right now I'm looking on the outside of my garment, and I'm going to bring the raw edges touching each other in the middle. Okay, and then I'll fold my fabric again, covering my stitching line, and I will top stitch from the right side of the sleeve. So I'll top stitch or edge stitch my fold using the machine. Again, I am covering my stitching line, and I'm aligning the fold with the inside of the inside edge of my toe until I finish my whole sleeve. And I'll stop where my dot was, or across from this dot over here, and back stitch again. Okay, so this is the binding part. Okay, so you will end up cleaning up this side. Now I'm going to work on the other side, the placket side, and again I am going to start from the wrong side of the fabric, and I'm going to put right side of the placket to the wrong side of the shirt. Okay, and here is my dot for where I need to stop stitching. And again, the shorter side is the side that I'm going to attach to the wider side of my sleeve. Okay, so I have my notches in place, and I'm going to take the side again that is shorter, like the side that's rectangular, and I'll put the right side, so this would be the right side of my fabric, and this would be the wrong side of my fabric, and I'm putting the right side of my placket to the wrong side of my sleeve, and I will stitch again at 1/4 inch, and I'll stop where my dot is, which is at the same level of the ending of stitch on the other side. I'm going to pin them to each other, and I'm going to take them to the sewing machine and stitch at 1/4 inch aligning the edges together from the dot in this case all the way to the hem of the sleeve. So I'm piercing the fabric right in my dot this time. Okay, and I'm going to take few stitches, 1, 2, 3, and then I'll back stitch 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and from here I'll be stitching at 1/4 of an inch until I get the whole seam done. Again, I am stitching from the wrong side of my sleeve right now. Okay. I'm trimming as I go, things clean. Alright, and again, I'm going to raise my fabric and I'm going to cut from the tip of my triangle to the last stitch on this side. Alright, and then I'm gonna take my placket to the right side of my sleeve. Alright, and I'm going to press the seam allowance towards the placket. Okay, I am working from the right side of the sleeve right now, and then I am this part over here I will need to do a lot of I have the notch for the center of the piece, so I will align this notch with this notch over here, and this part needs to be done using the iron to form the shape of the placket. So I am using my notches so that I can form the shape of the placket. This part, this raw edge will be folded on my 1/4 inch notches, and I am going to press it. Okay, and then I will cover my connection seam. Also, I need to fold 1/4 of an inch on each side of the top part so that my all my raw edges are hidden under the placket in this case. Right, at 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Okay. And I am going to press this on the iron, and then I'll come back and finish how it should be sewn. Okay, I'll see you in a little bit. I'll show you the pressed version of it. So now I have my placket pressed in place. Alright, so as you can see, I pressed the seam allowance so that it's enclosed inside the placket. I pressed the other side, alright, and then I pressed the center line, and then I pressed the top part so that all the seam allowances are hidden inside my placket. The other thing that needs to hide inside my placket is this triangle over here, so this needs to be flipped up. Okay, and also the upper edge of the binding part will be hidden inside the placket. So if I flip, I didn't sew yet, but if I flip on the other side, you can see that the triangle also will be enclosed inside my placket, and the placket is hiding the upper part of my binding. Okay, I'm gonna flip back to the right side, and I have everything pressed. So I'm going to start stitching so that I can fix my fold in place. I'm going to start stitching from the hem line, and then I'm gonna go up to the tip of the placket. I'm going to go around, and around this part over here, right? I will, so I'm gonna stitch this way, this way, this way, and then down until I get to my stitch line over here. Once I get to this point where I know that I have the triangle and I have the head of the binding, I'm gonna come here and I'm going to stitch horizontal, and then after stitching horizontal, I can also like stop at this point and back stitch, or I can create something like a box. So I can come here and do a stitch like this. They are two different approaches. So I'll come here, go this way, and then come back this way, and then I'll end up over here. Alright, so let's see this in practice. So the most important thing is I'm hiding also my attachment seam line under my placket. Alright, and I'm gonna start stitching at the 1/16 of an inch from the fold, back stitching at the hem, and then I'm going to align my fold with the inside of my toe. Okay, and I'm going to stitch to this corner. When I get to the corner, I'll leave my needle down and pivot. Right, and I will stay at a 1/16 away from my fold, right, until I get to the next corner. If you have any seam allowance that is sticking out of your fabric, you can use a pin to hide it back underneath the placket, and then you are going to stitch to the next corner and keep your needle down. Sometimes we need to do half a stitch, you can do that, okay? And then I'm gonna end where I marked, right, again at the level of the last stitch of the binding and where I stitched the placket to the shirt. Okay, and then at this point I will again leave my needle down and pivot again, and I will be stitching perpendicular at 90 degrees, right, until I get to the corner, and then I will be stitching the diagonal. And once I get to this corner, I will be stitching perpendicular again, and then the last diagonal will be aiming at this corner. And once I get there, I have one of two solutions. Either I stitch back horizontal, or I can back stitch. And done. Okay, so this is like a design detail. You can do it or you don't have to. You can just end by creating, just going around all these corners. Again, if I open this right now, everything is nice and clean and hidden inside and out, okay? All right, so now we have the notches for the pleats, and the pleats get pleated to the towards the, so the pleat gets pleated toward the placket, right? So this is my first pleat, and then here is my second pleat. All right, so I have two little pleats in there, and I pleated them, and I'm gonna take them to the machine and I will sew them to hold them in place at 1/4 of an inch. All right, so I'm gonna sew. This is just a holding stitch, so I don't have to back stitch or anything like that. It's a temporary stitch at 1/4 of an inch that will stay within the seam allowance. Right, and once I'm done with it, I will just trim, and I have it in place. So again, the fabric gets pleated toward the placket. Okay, right. All right, the next thing will be stitching the under seams together. All right, so I'm gonna put the right sides of the sleeve together, and I will stitch the under seam at 1/2 inch seam allowance according to my pattern seam allowance information, and I'm gonna stitch using the stitching guide on the throat plate. Okay, and from there I will just keep stitching until I finish and then back stitch again. Okay. Alright, so now I am looking from the inside of my sleeve. The cuff gets attached from one side of the placket to the other side of the placket, so it doesn't get attached to the under seam. It gets attached to one side of the placket, going all the way around and coming out at the other side of the placket. I have my cuff piece interfaced, and I am going to attach it from the inside of the sleeve. So I'm looking at the wrong side of the sleeve, and I will have my right side of the cuff and my ½ notch for the seam allowance will be aligned with one end of my placket. Okay, right side of the cuff to the wrong side of the sleeve, and when I pass by the under seam, I will keep my seam allowances open, pin over there, and then I'll keep going to the other side, pinning as I go, and then when I get to the other side of the placket, I will also keep the ½ inch. I think it's maybe a quarter of an inch in this case because I did the pleats. Right, if they are not exactly the same size, I can ease it. So I will stick out the ½ inch seam allowance. Right, and I can ease this part so that both of them are to the best of my ability, are the same size. And then I'm going to take it to the machine. I can work from the wrong side of the fabric, and again I am stitching in this case at ½ inch seam allowance from the raw edge. Back stitch, okay, and removing my pins as I go, and stitching at ½ inch seam allowance. Trim, and then after trimming I'm gonna fold my fabric, and I am going to look for my center notch on both pieces. Okay, I'll pin this in place. I'm stitching right now the shorter edges of my placket. Okay, so it should look like this, where you have a part that is sticking out, and I'm going to stitch from fold to fold on both sides. So I'm going to start at this fold and end at the fold of the placket on both sides. In line with my placket fold edge. Back stitching beginning and end. Okay, so I finished one side, and then I'm going to go, so I stitched it this way, back stitching beginning and end. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Again, in line with my binding folded edge or cleaned edge. Okay, I'm gonna sew over here. Back stitch, and then I'll stitch until I get to the fold line. So as you can see, you have this sticking part over here, and you are stitching from the finished edge, or like in line with the finished edge of the placket and the binding, all the way to the center point of fold of the cuff itself. All right. Now that I attached it this way, I can trim my seam allowance in half. Okay, and I can also grade my corner. Right, and that reduces the bulk, so I will grade my corner this way. Okay, and then I will flip my cuff to the right side. Okay, right now this is the wrong side of the sleeve. I'm gonna go to the right side of the sleeve, so I'll flip my sleeve inside out. Okay, and I will fold in the raw edge of the other side of the cuff, so that I can clean up the inside, hide all the seam allowances, and then I will be stitching or top stitching from the outside, so that I have a good quality stitching and my garment looks nice and clean. Again, I'm hiding all my seam allowances inside my cuff. And this side of the cuff, like the fold on this side, should cover the connection seam between the cuff and the shirt. And then I'm going to top stitch over here to secure my fold and finish my cuff in place. I will definitely go to the ironing board and press, so that my fabric is nice and stable in place. Right, I don't have to fight with it. Once you press it, like the fabric basically gets stabilized. So I'm gonna put a pin over here, and again I'm using my seam allowance to cover the connection seam between the cuff and the sleeve. Right, once I have everything where I want it to be, this seam over here is the under seam of the sleeve. I'm gonna take my cuff to the sewing machine, align my fold with the inside edge of my toe, and then I will stitch it in place. So again, the last step, I went ahead and pressed the fold, and the last step is I am going to top stitch my fold in place. Stitch few stitches and then I'll back stitch, and then I'll continue stitching until I finish the whole seam, again making sure that I'm covering my connection seam, and I am about 1/16 of an inch away from the folded edge. To the end, I'll back stitch, and then I'll be done with the last step of the stitching, and that's gonna be in preparation for applying your button and buttonhole. So the placket will be the cuff will be overlapping at the site where the placket is, and you will have your buttons, a button that will hold the two pieces together, or the two edges together, and that's it. So this is how you attach a placket, bind the slit, and attach the cuff to a sleeve. All right. Thank you.